Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself, or know your nation, know yourself. And today, because basically I put out a little survey, and as we know, there is a lot going on politically right now. And I asked you all who you would like me to do next for an astrological deep dive. And I came up with there were three I came up with three. One was Bobart, the other one was Amber Heard, and the third one was Ginni Thomas. And by around a rousing sort of 85%. By 85%, you wanted me to do Ginni Thomas. So that is exactly who this video is going to be about. Now, this video is going to go to my my membership first. So what's the day today? Today is the 29th of June, 2022, and it's currently 10 p.m. right now. And in fact, I need to be quite quick with this video because I'm going to be on in a couple of hours because I'm doing a collaboration with Lilac Lantern. So really looking forward to that, our first video. But it will go out to my membership first, and then my plan is to kind of put this video out maybe on the end of Hadiga, maybe have it automatically play afterwards, because of course this lady is very relevant, but I do obviously want to honor my members, yeah, and give them sneak peeks and stuff like that, and I really appreciate that support. So without further ado, let's dive in. Now, unless a person of course has been living under a rock for the last 6 months, pretty much everyone who takes an interest in USA politics, let alone citizens of America, almost everyone knows who Ginni Thomas is. And so let's just do a little bit of, we'll just cover some of the basics of her chart, but it becomes immediately obvious to me, what's going on. So Virginia Thomas, that's her actual name, is Virginia, and of course shortened to Ginni, was born on the 23rd of February, 1957, in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, we don't actually have a birth time for her. I've checked a lot of charts and stuff like that, and this can often be the case, even for people that are well known. They may not the birth time may not necessarily be known. However, as you know, I've done this very simple technique before, and it's a very common one, but it works particularly well for people in government. And you use the time 12 noon. You can use that as a default if you don't know a person's birth time, but 12 noon is particularly useful for people that are involved in high levels of government, which of course Ginni is. And I looked at the chart and it works beautifully. However, let's just take the ascendant with a piece of salt. All of the other placements we can basically trust in terms of the planets and stuff like that. So if we take 12 midday as her birth time, again, we can't 100% confirm. However, that would make Ginni Thomas a Taurus ascendant. There we are. So here's her chart. Oh goodness, that's very bright. Let's get this thing above here. Here she would be sidereal Taurus. In Western astrology, she would be down as a Gemini. Yeah, she'll be down as a Gemini rising, but she's actually a Taurus when you actually kind of bring it back according to this time. And what is really interesting is that now Taurus is a very interesting sign. It's a beautiful sign. It's very associated with the Earth and Gaia and all of these different kinds of things. But it's also associated with luxuries of all kinds, materialism, a strong desire for security, and it can also deal a lot with stubbornness as well. It's a beautiful sign, but we need to understand here, when we're talking about someone like Ginni Thomas, we are not talking about someone who is necessarily manifesting the virtues of the sign. So if we look here, what is the first house? The first house deals with, what is the wand? Crikey, what have I done? Oh, there it is. So what's the first house? The first house deals with the top of the head. This represents the birthing process. Yeah, the 12 houses of the zodiac in Vedic astrology literally represent the birthing process. So the top of the head comes out first, Aries, then comes out the face, Taurus, and then Gemini, the hands and arms, etc., etc., all the way around to the 12th house, which is also representative of the feet relative to Pisces. So the first house is very important. So it deals with the top of the head, the physical body, the health, constitution, personality, innate inspirations, first impressions, appearance, character, and birth into this world. And it is an angle and a trine. And for many of my clients, I pull out this diagram here, which is representative of the wheel on a boat. And these can discuss the angular houses, which are 1, 4, 7, and 10. They have power to shift the life. Any planet in the first house, irrespective of if it likes that, or any planet in an angle, irrespective if it likes that house or sign or not, will always pick up strength of some kind. Then you have the houses of Dharma, which are 1, 5, and 9. So the first house does double duty. And it means any planets or planet in the first house has a huge influence because it literally has the hands on the steering wheel of that person's life. So I want you to remember that. Now, what Ginni Thomas has here, and this is very, very interesting, she has got Ketu in the first house. Ketu. And it means she's got Rahu in the 7th house. Ketu, south node, first house. Rahu, north node, first house. And the number is 0013. 0013 degrees. So it's not even 1 degree. But it is in that sign. Now, there is something very curious about the nodes of the moon, because then they always go backwards. So they are fresh and young when the degree is higher, when a planet would actually normally be old. So if you take Saturn, for example, and if he's at, well, Saturn's an old planet anyway, but if he's at 25, 26, 27, 28 degrees, any planet is very mature at that point and can become the Atmakarka, which means the soul indicator, what that person's karmas and soul is all about. But with the nodes of the moon, because they move backwards, it's opposite. The lower the number means they're just about to leave a house and they're extremely mature. And there is a technique where Rahu, north node of the moon, can become the Atmakarka, the soul planet. So I want you to remember that. Rahu is very bombastic, unusual, eccentric, strange, associated with lying, associated with weirdness. Yeah, the nodes of the moon are weird. They're strange. They're the odd ones out. They're known as the rebels. Ketu is actually known as the gypsy. The south node of the moon is known as the gypsy. And he is a body without a head. Now, Ketu can be very spiritual, indeed. And very often when he's in the first house, it can actually make a person extremely shy in their childhood, if this is indeed her first house. Now, she may not seem like the most shy kind of person. However, that spirituality of Ketu is always going in some shape or form. And it can make a person extremely introspective. Can also make a person extremely unusual and strange as well. They can even come up with weird ideas sometimes because this is the part, it doesn't have a head. Yeah. So Ketu will take, it's like having an open trapdoor to the cosmos where anything can come in, good, bad, or ugly, or indifferent. Could be anything. Yeah, with Ketu in the first house. So there's that. That sets the context. There is this susceptibility to drinking down ideas, or having ideas kind of come down and really take deep root. Because Ketu is also quite an extreme planet. It's very silent, but it can be very violent. Yeah. The shadow of Ketu is extremely dark. Silent but violent is one of those ones. It's also known as the hottest planet, and it takes on the nature of Mars. So what it does is it increases the intensity. We're dealing here with a very, very intense person who could have been shy in some way, and often Ketu, people with Ketu in the first house tend to be vulnerable when they're younger, and they tend to kind of build up strength a bit as they get older. Yet Taurus is also the sign of valuable objects, of luxuries, of the good life. It deals with pleasures, of all kinds, the arts, I would say, sculpture in particular, but all art forms. Music, singing as well is another one, but it also deals with education, learning, and teaching, and it also deals with this part of the body, the face, and the neck. This is considered Taurus. All the senses are here: the eyes, the nose, the mouth, etc. Even is to do with the teeth and the speech. So what we see here is someone that was very reserved, potentially in their childhood, yet could have a very stubborn streak to them as well if they're in the shadow of Taurus. It can be unbudgeable. Think of the stubbornness of an ox is famous. Yeah, it's famous. All Taurians are known for this. So here we've got someone that is interested or sensitive to forms of spirituality, but once they establish their ideas, they can be quite hard to move. Now, starts to make sense, doesn't it? Well, when we think of it in that perspective, even if the ascendant wasn't here, this is still Ketu in Taurus. However, with the system that I use now, some people, when it comes to the planet that holds the highest degree, some people don't include Rahu. However, when you do include Rahu, it makes a lot of sense. And what it means is this: it means Ginni's Atmakarka, the planet that holds the highest degree in her chart, is actually Rahu. Ketu doesn't count as a Karka indicator of the manifestations of planet Earth, because Ketu doesn't care about that. Yeah, Ketu is the Moksha Karka. But Rahu is very much about what the Earth is about. Rahu is very closely associated with politics. Politics, lying, scheming, shortcuts, mavericks, unusual, eccentric characters, those that are strange or weird in some way. But there's also a brilliance there to Rahu as well. Rahu was able to steal the nectar of the gods. He paid for it by having his head cut off, but he was immortal, and that's where you get Rahu and Ketu as this separating force. There used to be a serpent called Swabanu. So what does it mean? So what it means because Rahu is at 00 degrees 13 minutes, about to go into the next house, it's actually at the highest degree. Which means Ginni Thomas's soul is imprinted with the energy of Rahu. And that in of itself, I could actually stop the consultation. I can actually stop the video right there, because that explains it all. That explains everything. Her soul is imbibed with the energy of Rahu. Rahu, the usurper in some ways. He stole the nectar of the gods, something that didn't belong to him. He used his cunning. He hid between the sun and the moon. And then when Mohini, who was really Vishnu, but Mohini was the most beautiful woman in the world, who was the arbitrator of the liquid of immortality, which was called Amrita, Rahu disguised himself and hid between the sun and the moon and pretended to be a deity. He drank the liquid, and as soon as he took the liquid, the sun and the moon both informed on him. Mohini turned back into Shiva, his fierce form, and cut off the head of Swabanu, and they became Rahu and Ketu. And like I said, Rahu deals with extremes. Rahu is bombastic. Rahu can be over the top. Rahu is known for ingeniousness and cunning, but also lying and cheating, or disguising himself as something else. And then his true nature is revealed later. And that is Ginni Thomas's soul planet. Her soul is imbibed with that energy. So I just thought you might find that. Very interesting. Yeah, for me, it certainly is. If we go around here, if we look at a third house, what is the third house? The third house deals with communications. Yeah, it deals with the hands, the arms, the upper lungs. It deals with courage, life force, the creative arts, competition, siblings, sales, self-employment, entertainers, self-made money. It deals with competition. It deals with languages, travel, and all forms of communication. Third house. She has got planet Uranus here. You see? There it is, planet Uranus, which is at 10 degrees 28 minutes of sidereal Cancer. Cancer is the sign of emotionality. It's about emotions, feelings, the sense of wanting to nurture something, look after something. That is what this what Cancer is about. Now, if I go here, if I just get her main chart up, I'm just going to double check to see if this Uranus is in Pushya or Purna-Vasu. So if we look here, aha, just as I thought, it's at 10 degrees 28 minutes. So this Uranus here is in the nakshatra, the star cluster called Pushya. Now, this is very interesting because Uranus is the planet of eccentrics, unusual things, liberation, breaking free. It also deals with revolution. Uranus is the planet of revolution, and she's got in the third house of communications, in the sign of Cancer, which is to do with emotions, but it's in the nakshatra Pushya, which means to nurture something. Mother's milk gives something to grow. So here, quite literally, if we condense that down, we've got someone who is what? Potentially the mother of revolution. For entertainment purposes only, by the way. Do you see? This is starting to add up more and more, isn't it? That it should, third house is absolutely appropriate. What in terms of what people are now interested in her for, which is what? All of her communications, what? Texts and emails, which this is what the third house deals with. But also as well, Uranus is an electrical planet. He deals with innovation, electricity, technology, AI, that kind of stuff. So here we can see the emotions are mingled in with that. Something as well, which I think you guys will find very interesting. Now, I've not drawn it in yet, so here it is here. Here's Pluto. But Pluto is at a very special degree, and my goodness, am I not familiar with this position, this star here, which I'm just drawing in. And here we are, 4 to 6 degrees Regulus. So Ginni Thomas has her Pluto conjunct the star Regulus. First of all, what's Pluto? Pluto is dark night of the soul. Pluto is everything that has been coming out of the depths. Pluto, like I said, I've said in previous videos, deals with bondage, slavery, people trafficking, can deal with sexual assault, but it also deals with mind control, manipulation, H-bombs, explosive events, deals with corruption, dark money. This is the original abductor of Persephone, Hades, yeah? But what is even more remarkable is that Ginni Thomas has got her Pluto at 5 degrees and 48 minutes. 5 degrees, 48 minutes, which is exactly conjunct the star Regulus, which is the heart of the lion, which means to take a throne, even by force. Marga, the symbol for Marga is the throne. It's where the king or the queen, if it's talking about a woman's chart, takes what they believe is to be their throne. And you know what's even more remarkable about this is that a certain Duc L'Orange has got his Mars, planet of war. So literally the general becomes almost like a warmonger, the fighting king, at pretty much exactly the same degree. It's at 5 degrees. I can't remember the minutes here and there. I don't know what I've done with Trump's chart, but it's at 5 degrees. She's got her Pluto in exactly the same place where Duck Larange, Trump, has got his Mars in sidereal Leo, completely bombastic, and it's also on the ascendant. So her Pluto, the planet of what all of those associations that I've just talked about, also deals with coups, yeah, because it deals with corruption, overthrowing things, turning things upside down. There's a lot of that Pluto energy, and she's got her Pluto in exactly the same place in 2 important factors for Duck Larange's chart. Now, for entertainment purposes only, you can't make this stuff up. It all makes sense. That's why she's so into him, yeah? So into him. If we look at her Jupiter, which is here. Now, her Jupiter is a bit dodgy because here, Jupiter is not a friend of Mercury, and it's in the sign of Virgo, which belongs to Mercury. Now, what's really interesting here, this can be to do with health and healing, because Virgo has a lot to do with health and healing and stuff like that. So hold that in mind. You might think, Ginny Thomas, health and healing. When we get round to the 8th house, you'll understand what I mean. But Jupiter represents the significant men in a woman's life, and Jupiter in this case represents the husband. Yeah. Now I don't know if Clarence Thomas is Ginny's first or second husband or whatever, but we know he's the husband. Yeah. And Jupiter also deals with the law and stuff like that. But what's amazing is it's in the 5th house. What's the 5th house? It deals with creativity and the giving heart. It deals with true intelligence, children. It can even deal with terminations as well, believe it or not. Good past karma, purva punya. It deals with self-confidence, recognition, giving counsel, consultation and advice to others. It deals with talent, romance, speculation, sport, kings and politics, fun, spiritual pursuits, books, particularly writing books, and the ability to improve and recognition. But the important thing is this. It deals with giving consultation and advice to others. It has now emerged, of course, what has Ginny been doing? She's been ringing up, all those people saying, keep up the good fight, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. There's a pattern here where she's giving advice to consultation and advice to others, but it also shows that the husband does the same thing, because Jupiter represents the husband and it's in the 5th house. Who do you get consultation and advice from when you need it? More often than not, it will be who? A lawyer. It can literally say the husband is a lawyer. And we know, of course, absolutely that that Clarence Thomas was a lawyer. Obviously, he had to be a lawyer. Now he's the Supreme Justice. Yeah, it's remarkable. So I think this time that I've got for her is right. At least that ascendant, I think, is correct. So we've got that. What's interesting here is that she's got Neptune in the 6th house. Now, Neptune is a great planet. I call it the planet of talent. It dissolves the boundary between the 3-dimensional world and beyond. It is associated with music, in particular, painting and the arts. It's known as the higher octave of Venus. And here, Ginny Thomas has got her Neptune at 9 degrees and 12 minutes of sidereal Libra. So her Neptune is very powerful. For actually many of these people in this generation, many of my clients actually have Neptune in Libra. And Neptune spends about 14 years in each sign, about 14 years. And so what that does is, but we also need to understand that Libra is not just literature and the arts. Libra is also about deals. Yeah, there it is. There's a Neptune. There it is in Libra. Neptune retrograde, bit more karma on it, bit more subterranean in Libra. Libra is all about arguments. And this Neptune of hers is in the nakshatra called Swati. And the deity associated this with is Vayu, god of the wind. And the symbol is a blade of grass blowing in the wind. So it's very independent and very free, even though Libra is all about marriage. But we need to understand this is about the independence of the mind, and it's a lot to do with speech. It deals with the dissemination of speech, arguments, and ideas. Yeah, very relevant. Libra also deals not only with trade and relationships, but also deals with the law. But Neptune has a darker side. Neptune also deals with illusions and delusions, gaslighting, lying, scandals. Can deal with fog and confusion. And for her, it's in the 6th house. And the 6th house deals with health and healing and overcoming obstacles, deals with battles and enemies and stuff like that. So it shows that in some ways, the fog of her own mind can be her worst enemy. Even if she does have these, what she would believe to be elevated ideas. Yeah, highly idealistic. If we go to the 7th house, if you've got Ketu in the 1st, it means Rahu is in the 7th. So the 7th house is anyone that's not us. And it also represents the spouse, the partner. So what it means is, what it can mean is, it can mean that the spouse, the 7th house also deals with fame and the public. So it can often mean that the spouse is very prominent, famous, or well known. I think it's fair to argue that Justice Thomas is very well known. Yeah, and he's obviously at the highest. Anyone who's a Supreme Court, there's no court higher than the Supreme Court. So this is someone who's reached the top of their career. But the giveaway is that Saturn is here. Saturn. Here's Saturn. And Saturn is also a planet of the law. So we see there are two indicators. There are two very strong indicators that, the husband is involved in law, because we've got Jupiter in the 5th house, in the house of counsel, giving counsel and advice and stuff like that. Also, as well, the 7th house can deal with open enemies and litigation. And here it is in the sign of Scorpio. And Scorpio deals with what? Intrigues of all kinds. It deals with digging deep. So when we put that all together, it can show that the person is prominent, potentially even famous or infamous. It shows that there is a scorpionic quality to the partner, which means going deep, digging deep, and can also deal with intrigues. But it also shows as well that this person is representing the law and lawyers in some kind of way, because the 7th house is house of open enemies, where we go to court with people. So again, it just all stacks up one on top of the other. And it can show an older or a mature person, or even someone with darker skin, believe it or not, yeah, for Saturn. And again, that is absolutely relevant as well. But now let's move on to the 8th house. And this really in many ways is the humdinger. So if we look here, she's got the moon very strong in Sagittarius in the 8th house. And the moon is at 7 degrees and 1 minute. Now, this is very important, because in sidereal Sagittarius, from 0 degrees of Sagittarius to the first 10 degrees of Sagittarius is a nakshatra called Mula. So she's got her moon right in Mula. Now, what is Sagittarius all about? So for her, this is her 8th house, but let's read what Sagittarius is about via its natural place in the 9th house. So it deals with higher learning. It deals with gurus and teachers. It deals with publishing and travels. It deals with the law and lawmakers. It deals with religion. It deals with spirituality. It deals with innate inspirations, education, languages, the father, luck, and it also deals with fanaticism. Fanaticism. That's what a lot of Sagittarius is about. It's a fire sign. It's where people get impassioned about their beliefs, but it can also deal with fanaticism. And here she's got it in the 8th house, which takes on the energy of Scorpio. Scorpio is the 8th sign. So there is that energy of Scorpio wherever the 8th house is, irrespective of the sign. And the moon debilitates in the sign of Scorpio. It intensifies it too much. It gets too emotional, gets a bit too cray. What does the 8th house deal with? I call it the house of sex, death, and rock and roll. All of you will know this by now. It deals with the private parts as a body part, but it deals with transformation, traumas, wills, surrender, life insurance, psychology, addictions, metaphysics, disgrace. It deals with inheritance, bankruptcy, taxes, corruption, magnetism, and charisma. It's the house of burning karmas. It even deals with murder and, and death. It deals with alchemy, conspiracy theories. It deals with life force astrology, money from other shamans, and espionage. She's got a moon in the 8th, in a sign that is prone to be fanatical. And so I'm just going to go to this article here, because many of you will know that once upon a time, and again for entertainment purposes only, but this is just a well-known fact, Ginni Thomas used to be in what she referred to as a cult. And I'm going to just read this out for you here. Right. So I found this article on MSNBC or something like that. The news, where it fans out like a peacock, that symbol. And this is called The Untold Story of Ginni Thomas, Anti-Cult Activism After She Was Deprogrammed. Check it out. I even put it as a link, maybe in the video, in the description below. So I'm going to read you a bit of this article. You remember I was talking about fanaticism, yeah? People that are drawn to fanaticism. And this was written on June 14th, 2022 at 11:10 a.m. BST. It's written by Alan Smith and Alex Seatswald. So here we are. I'm just going to read this out because I won't read out the whole article, but I'm going to read because this is worth knowing. So Washington in the 1980s, Virginia, Ginni Thomas had a moment of clarity. She realized she had fallen in with a group she considered a cult and sought to be deprogrammed from it. She said in decades-old remarks obtained by NBC News, not MSNBC, NBC News. All right, but I think it's, never mind. I'm not American, so I really don't know fully, but check it out. So Thomas's involvement with LifeSpring, so this is the thing which we heard about. So LifeSpring, an organization advertising training seminars supporting to help participants unlock almost superhuman potential. Now let's not forget, she's got Jupiter in the 5th house, which is giving consultation and advice to others, but it's also where we seek counsel as well. But what happens is she's got Neptune here in the 6th house, and the 6th house deals with health and healing and overcoming obstacles. And Neptune dissolves the boundary between the three-dimensional world and beyond. It's very otherworldly. And isn't it interesting that she was joining a group where it was to basically help people, what was it? To almost take on supernatural abilities. Supernatural. Neptune, yeah? Uranus can be that as well, but definitely Neptune. So, yeah, so to unlock almost superhuman potential. So obviously she was going there to try and, the 6th house is about solving problems, self-improvement. So that really obviously intrigued her because she's got Neptune in the 6th house. So she's like, if I'm going to improve myself, I want to be superhuman. Yeah, it's not enough to be ordinary, with Neptune. Anyways, so an organization advertising training seminars purporting to help participants unlock almost superhuman potential left her wondering what it was about herself that allowed her to be drawn in. It was her Neptune. Her successful, because Neptune deals a lot with cults, her successful deprogramming considered a controversial tactic, led her to become a vigorous anti-cult crusader. Yep, so she got involved in cults and then she was like, oh my God, and then was anti-cult. For years, she was deeply involved in the nation's largest anti-cult organization, assisting in setting up workshops for congressional staffers to combat groups like LifeSpring. So there we are, Congress. And there's more. And she said here, when you come away from a cult, you've got to find a balance in your life as far as getting involved with fighting the cult or exposing it, Thomas told attendees at the 1986 Cult Awareness Network panel in Kansas City, Missouri. And kind of the other angle is getting a sense of yourself and what was it that made you go into that group? And what open questions are there still that still need to be answered? So look at that. Isn't that interesting? Where she was originally in a cult, out of a cult, then joined anti-cult stuff, and then seems to have gone back into one as the article continues. I won't read all of it, but this is just interesting for context, because this shows the power of Vedic astrology, because her moon is here, and the moon is the mind overall. Wherever the moon is, it's the most sensitive planet. It's where the mind goes, the emotions go, where we are preoccupied. It really just deals with that, very much our sense of home, belonging. So the article goes on to say it's difficult to reconcile Thomas then and now for people who worked with her at the height of her anti-cult activism through the late 80s, said in interviews. Their height is hard to reconcile. After they spent years trying to expose cults, these people found Thomas's efforts to promote outlandish plans to overturn the 2020 results, particularly the text message and emails over here, Uranus, third house. But guess what? When we look at her moon, which is in the 10th house in her D9, it's also in Gemini, which also deals with emails, communications. Anyway, particularly text messages and emails, which she referenced false election conspiracies. Do you remember I said 8th house / or Scorpio is to do with conspiracy theories that originated in QAnon circles on the internet. Surprising that they reckoned it was surprising. Democrats and Republicans alike have said QAnon supporters exhibit cult-like behavior. So I'll finish that article there. So do you see how this placement of the moon, which is the mind and the emotions and our most sensitive part of the chart, what we predominantly think about is in the sign of Sagittarius, which is about ideologies and beliefs of all kinds, but can also deal with fanaticism. And it's in the nakshatra Mula, which means to tear up by the roots and put something new in there. And it's in the 8th house, which deals with cults, conspiracy theories, death and transformation and, things that go bump in the night. And she's got her most sensitive planet of the chart right in that house. So in many ways, that explains Ginni Thomas all over, for entertainment purposes only. But there's more, and it goes on to it. So if we look here, we look at her 9th house, which again takes on the energy of Sagittarius. She's got Mercury here, Venus here, and Chiron. Mercury and Venus are best friends. They do very well in the sign of sidereal Capricorn, which this is in. And the 9th house again deals with what? The law and lawmakers, ideologies and beliefs. And she's got Chiron in here, which is the wounded healer. So it can show she received a wound in her life in regards to ideologies and beliefs. She was in a cult. She got wounded by that, and then had to leave and deprogram herself. Deprogram this sensitive moon that was prone to ideologies and fantastical ideas and conspiracy theories. Here is the 9th house. There it is there. Number 9. 2 planets there, planets of communication and business, but there's Chiron. She received a wound. And also as well, it was in the Capricorn is a sign of corporate things. It deals with government distribution systems of all kinds, but it deals with corporate hierarchy structures, power. This thing that it was called, what was it called again? Let me just see here. When it was, what was it called? It was LifeSpring. So Thomas's involvement with LifeSpring, an organization advertising training seminars purporting to help participants unlock almost supernatural potential or power. Capricorn is also a sign of power, top-down struggle. She wanted to be more powerful. And and the fact it was, it was like a self-improvement thing. It was like a corporate thing that she was part of. It would have had a professional aspect to it. So do you see how powerful this is. And then when we look at the sun in Ginny Thomas's chart, and the sun is the kingdom. And here, the sun is actually in an awkward sign for it. It's in the sign of Saturn, which is Aquarius. Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. And whenever you see the sun here, you know, it can be a bit tricky because technically the sun is in an enemy sign. However, what is Aquarius? Aquarius is all about community, building communities of all kinds. It's also known as the house of other people's children. It can even deal with adoption and stuff like that, or marrying someone who's got children from a previous marriage and then kind of accepting them as your own. It also deals with aviation, travel, and distribution systems of all kinds. It deals with messages. It deals with community. So we see here, Ginny has got a kingdom in a sign that deals with community and building communities. It was probably the community aspect that also drew her to that cult, because it was an organization of many people. Aquarius deals with organizations of all different kinds. It deals with bringing all sorts of disparate people together of different backgrounds. And so it's about building a community. So when we see here, when we put it all in together in regards to January 6th, we see that this was a person highly, highly geared towards building a kind of coalition or community, but it was coming maybe from a position of ideology and fanaticism. Yeah. And finally, the 12th house. She's got Mars in the 12th house with Ceres there. Ceres is where we give our devotion to something, almost like a mother's love. But Ceres also, I've found, Ceres is the Roman name for Demeter, the goddess of the harvest. It's where we give a motherly love to something. But it also is connected with Persephone, who was abducted. So Ceres can show where we're afraid of losing something as well. It can deal with gaining something or losing something or trying to get something back. What was Jenny afraid of? She was afraid that Donald Trump had lost the election, and almost like Persephone, her treasured child, was trying to get back. Let's not forget her Pluto. Yeah, Pluto or Hades, the original abductor of Persephone, is conjunct Regulus to the exact degree, which is also exactly on Trump's ascendant, which is his body, and his Mars. And she's got her Mars there. Isn't that interesting? Her Mars is in the 12th house. But the point is that you can see that connection. So wherever Ceres is, we give our devotion to something, but we fear that we might lose it. Or if we are under fear of losing it, we're going to fight hook, tooth and nail like a mother searching for her child, just like Demeter did when she lost Persephone. She searched the whole world. She didn't give up. She said, nothing will grow on planet Earth until I get my daughter back in her rightful place. Sound familiar? Duck L'Orange may not be her daughter, but it's to whom she is very, very dedicated. And it's here in the 12th house in Aries. There it is, in 12th house in Aries. There we are, 12th house, and we'll count all the way around. But guess what? What's the 12th house? The 12th house deals with aviation, unspoiled nature. It deals with escape and endings. It deals with retirement, rest, deep research, loss, foreign lands. It deals with imagination, secrets. It deals with secrets. Holidays overseas, confusion, spiritual retreats, hospitals, foreign income. It can deal with secret affairs, bed pleasures, expenses, past life, islands, hidden enemies. Deals with hidden enemies. It also deals with surrender, endings, addictions, the feet, charity, forests, outer space. Deals with outer space, prisons, and self-undoing. She's got Mars here in Aries, in his own sign, extremely powerful. Yeah, so we see this is someone who, once they get fired up by something, they are almost impossible to stop. And she will do any background dealings in order to bring about the result that she wants, because Ceres is here. Yeah, This is Ceres is motherly love. Mars is the planet of what? War. So this is like the warring mother. And guess what? Mars, by transit, has just come into sidereal Aries. So she's about to have a Mars return, which happens every 2 years. So things are going to hot up for Ginny Thomas. Do you remember how she was saying, "Oh, I'm very happy to talk to the Jan 6 Commission," and now it's all like, yeah, because her lawyer's just like, "What are you doing? What are you thinking?" Yeah, because Aries is to jump and then look. That's what Aries is about. Rather than look before you leap, Aries will jump and then look and be like, "Oh dear, ooh, got myself, how can I extricate myself out of this?" So she obviously already opened herself up to the Jan 6 committee and stuff like that. So we will have to see. We've gone through her 12 houses and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty accurate. But, let me know what you think in the comments below. And of course, if you'd like a consultation with me, then please visit the archetypalblueprint.com, where you can see all of my bits and bobs. And don't forget to either like or subscribe if you've enjoyed that content, or even join. You can learn Vedic astrology with me as well on my Vedic apprenticeship course. And of course, you get these deep dives that I do as well. You get to see them before the public. Most of them the public haven't seen, but 1 or 2 I release, especially important ones like this. So thank you so much for watching. I think 45 minutes is enough. And yes, I will see you on the next one. Thanks so much. All right, bye for now.